That's pretty cool. Well, welcome to the podcast.
But my name is Gina Cavalier. I have a company called the Liberated Healer. And basically, I used to be a media veteran and just wasn't really living my authentic life. And, through a journey of self healing, I had suicidal thoughts actually from the age of 8 years old. That's going to be detailed in a book that I co authored that's coming out on the 28th of June. So it's very soon, about healing my suicidal ideation. And the company and the books and the products and everything that I'm building, and even a web app and a documentary, are all centered around healing suicidal ideation.
Two, listen without trying to fix, as this can make someone feel invalidated.
Which I know I've healed in myself, and I want to share it with the people that are suffering.
And perhaps even broach the topic before you suspect any issues. It can help to ask those in your family how they feel about suicide and if they've ever considered it.
And that this is something that they absolutely can do, and they can get to the other side of healing faster than they think they can.
Conversation. The more we talk about suicide, the better. It is a common human emotion and experience that, when brought out of the darkness, can help us find the light.
Hi, everybody. It's Anura Mathis, your host of Freedom to Fight. And I have a new wonderful guest on my show. I'm so thrilled I get to interview someone that's, maybe not super familiar with the martial arts world, but the mental health world, because that's what we talk about here. So I'll let you introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for this co-creation. Yeah. I mean, any type of movement in energy world is great. So we can get into that. But my name is Gina Cavalier. I have a company called the Liberated Healer. And basically, I used to be a media veteran and just wasn't really living my authentic life. And, through a journey of self healing, I had suicidal thoughts actually from the age of 8 years old. That's going to be detailed in a book that I co authored that's coming out on the 28th of June. So it's very soon, about healing my suicidal ideation. And the company and the books and the products and everything that I'm building, and even a web app and a documentary, are all centered around healing suicidal ideation, which I know I've healed in myself. And I want to share it with the people that are suffering, that this is something that they absolutely can do, and they can get to the other side of healing faster than they think they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm a mental health professional and want to spread awareness of mental health itself, because some people don't acknowledge that we have some of these issues, but especially if it's a crisis situation, such as suicide or attempted suicide. So I'm glad that we have the time to do that today, and I'm so proud of you. You have I like the media packet that you sent. You've done a lot of work, and I'm really thrilled about your book coming out.
I just appreciate your support and sharing the messages, and always meeting like-minded souls like you. Like, it just lifts me up, and I love what I'm doing. And as I was saying before, I was kind of what might have seemed like a little bit like of a great position, working at Warner Brothers and Disney and all these like places. But I thought that would be my end goal, and I actually wasn't happy. And so now I'm kind of going back to media, but in my own way, with my own passion and desire, and turning it's all kind of works together. If you're in any kind of a space that are not thriving, are not living an authentic life, only you know exactly what path you need to take, but you need support on that journey of, hey, you can do this. Here's some options. What works for you? It's sort of a solo sport, healing, but in a way, but but you get support from the teachers and the coaches and the people that are rooting you on. And that feels so good when you've got, community just saying, yeah, you can do this. Let's do it together,
It's essential. I think both are separate but interconnected. We need to do the work to heal ourselves, but to lean on our communities, regardless if we think that we need the help. I think we can't separate ourselves. We're a part of a community. We're a part of a family. We're a part of different types of communities, and it's essential to be around the right communities so that you can heal. But we need each other.
Yeah. And I kind of always fall back on sort of the thing I teach and work on. Be good, even with your community, is the idea of energy, right? We know what energy is. It's atoms and protons and electrons, right? We have 50 trillion cells in our body. Okay. So in each one of those cells has a little bit of energy. And so our actual aura and our vibration is like a mini tornado. And if you think of what a tornado does as it runs around, right? It's collecting energy and it's moving energy. We're exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So if you start to really understand how much power you have within yourself, I mean, it makes you feel like a superhuman. We have all these movies about superheroes. We're actually little mini superheroes, all of us, and inside of us right now. And so you can transmute that energy into anything that you want. It could be to be a better athlete. It could be to have more seniority in your life or in your job, or it could be to find that life partner because you can calling in the right person instead of people that are mirroring you in your wounds, or, so that's why I love the energy part. It is spiritual as well for me, but if you're not really a super spiritual person, then just look at the energy part of it. It's still a very scientific quantum physics, explanation of who you are. And, recognizing that you have all these, you can transmute this into anything you want, like to be a prize fighter if you wanted to, having that mindset, making sure everything is working. I mean, it really puts the power in your own hands, whatever you're dealing with or want to achieve.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've got so much to share, but
okay.
I'll try to go in bits. So, Gino, tell me what it means to be a liberated healer.
This is sort of a vision that came to me sort of, when I did about 15 years of healing and I finally got to the other side of the mountain. And I like to use mountains as analogies because that's what it feels like when you're, we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down. And a mountain is like, do you want to walk up that mountain with a giant boulder on your back? Or do you want to go up that mountain with an axe in your hand? You know what I mean? And it's sort of like you're having to change your own perspective, right? And all of us have a unique path. All of us belong here. All of us have a life purpose here. And there's not a single person, no matter what, that doesn't have it. And when you can recognize that you just being here live on earth presently, how magical that is, that having this body exactly the way that you came in, whichever the things that whatever your story is, we're all unique and interesting, right? We all have this neat, interesting story, but you're the only one that's going to know where your wounds are for real. You're the only one that's going to know what resonates with you. So something that resonated with me might not resonate with someone else. All I can do is kind of lay it out there and say, if it works, try it. If it doesn't, try to find something else. But just in the practice of trying different things, you may need to try 15 different things to find that one thing that makes you go, that one works, So once you kind of get into that decision-making process that I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to my other side of the healing or to the top of the mountain, that's when you're liberated. It's not the actual, getting to the end point. It's just when you make that decision to put yourself first, no matter what, you've already become the liberated healer and you're making your own plan to how do I get to that healing?
Yeah. taking
Yeah.
your healing into your own hands. Yeah. Knowing you
Yes.
can heal yourself. Yeah.
Tools, and I share the tools that worked for me. And as we become more modern, um, in it as a community, we've lost our the first thing people used to do about 200 years ago and before that was they led first with spirituality. They did ritual. They prayed over their food. They prayed over people. I mean, it was a ritual. It wasn't like a quote unquote religion. It was a spiritual ritual that they did every
Practice.
single day.
Mhm.
As we become more modern, as we become wealthier, as we had more medication, that's all gone by the waysides for a lot, in a way, for the general population. And we've gotten sicker and more depressed. So it's basically kind of putting energy or spirituality first and recognizing that you're just this energy being and making that as the priority instead of the other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to share that you are the very first guest I've had on my show that is talking about energy and spirituality, and I've talked briefly about that, but I'm excited because I have a background in studying spirituality, Buddhism, and meditation, and kind of like that's the core of my life. I just got done meditating right before we started, but I want to. I want to make sure this is an inclusive space because not everybody's going to want to listen anyway. It might be a subject that's triggering to them, but I think, talking in general terms and not saying what it's religion or spirituality, you're saying it's energy. So I think for some people that might be triggering as well, but I want to talk more about that because I was raised with that type of mentality of thinking of the philosophy of things, of everything kind of having the same vibration of truth. Like I wasn't raised Christian, but I understand the essence of Christianity, and I can live a life like a Christian would, without subscribing to every belief. So, I think I want to talk more about energy.
Okay.
And then we can get into your book and your story.
Okay.
But just because we started to talk about energy. Yeah.
Sure. Any kind of adjectives you can think of that goes up or tube that goes down, right? And the up is all the love, joy, happiness, passion, all the good stuff. And then the down is the downward spiral, resentment, depression, anxiety, fears, right? So I look at everything as sort of a funnel and I try to navigate myself because, and this is what the new generation is sort of struggling with, I think, is putting this into their hands of that everybody, there's always going to be conflict, right? So there's been too much kind of catering to make sure this generation doesn't have to deal with conflict, right?
Sure.
So then that's a part of what they throw them on medication and then they're just super numb. But that's actually not helping them. There's a percentage, of course, and I'm not a medical doctor, but that might need it to have extreme things. We know that by the numbers that there's a big chunk of kids and adults that are getting on medication that actually just energy practices and principles and working out like you do and doing that kind of extreme sports will actually help propel the energy of that lower vibration out of their body and their spirit and their entire ecosystem. So they can live a life that they want to live. But when you start to subscribe to that, it's like every day we can have a conflict once a day or a decision once a day that's hard or an obstacle. They're going to come. So we have to learn how to manage conflicts and obstacles. And we weren't really taught that before. And now we're all modernized, right? And we're expected to work our butt off, like completely know how to make decisions constantly. We're just supposed to be like these machines, right? Yeah. So how do you become very successful, productive, and work in this world where you are in a good space, where you're not going home triggered, exhausted, tired, and just biting the head off of someone you love because you're just so tired and everything hurts. And then you call in illnesses that way. And then we become an ill society. And then we don't have the structures to actually do homeopathic healing. And so we get plugged into the system of pharmaceuticals and plugged into the system of being money-making machines for the other people. I mean, I know a lot about this stuff. You know, when you hear about cancer treatments, they make 65% is they make so much money off chemotherapy. It's ridiculous. That's why they don't try other things before they try. They just put you right into chemotherapy because it makes so much money. It is a business, right? Yeah. So taking this back into your hands, saying, I'm going to learn how to deal with conflict. I'm going to learn how to deal with obstacles. And I'm going to stand with my heart up in confidence. This is all energy. So what you do, the first thing that we do is that we've been kind of deprogrammed from a lot of these things. So the first thing that I always teach is grounding. And grounding, as someone who has depression or anxiety, this is like the number one thing, because what happens is you have energy spinning all around constant. Like I said, the 50 trillion cells, right? I like to use an analogy of if you were to build a home and you were an electrician and you go in to put the electricity in a house, what they do is they put all those wires in to all your little plugs, right? The first thing they do is they add a grounding cord to the earth. They do that. So if they didn't do that, the house would not be able to manage that energy. The home would not be able, the energy would go all over the place and would start a fire. We're exactly the same. So as we're living our modern lives, the first thing we have to do is ground. And that could be putting your feet on the ground. That could be imagining a cord coming off of your hips and sending it all the way to the center of the earth and telling your mind, body, spirit, or just energy, you know what? I want to release the things that aren't helping me today. I want to release the fears. And we might see images from videos or movies, you know, people playing games all the time, like, you know, shoot up games. Those images go into your brain. They go into your body. And they call it the body keeps a score. So it's like all of a sudden, you know, you might have seen something like this is inside of you. You have to have a release mechanism. This is like the modern day release mechanism. So first ground all the way to the center of the earth, and then call back your energy, whether it's like think of a big golden sun that's falling into your body and you're just filling it back up with all the good stuff in the upward funnel, happiness, joy, love. When you do that and say you have to go make a decision on something, answer an email, reply to somebody who's mean to you online, first take a second and do some of that. You're going to respond differently. Because what happens is we're fighting so much. What happens is you carry that inside of you.
Yeah.
So you can decide, you have so much power. You can switch constantly what's happening, not in just your environment, but everyone around you. And it's like a puddle. It reaches out to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're all made of energy, then we're all able to influence each other for better or for worse. And I think that's a good description of your healing work and utilizing energy, because without grounding, it's really hard for us to we act out of our subconscious sometimes, you know, where our trauma resides, our fear nature, and we'll just go out in the world and just start our day and get on the road and be nasty to each other and not really be able to catch ourselves. You know, we've said something that we didn't mean to say because we were not consciously thinking. We reacted instead of responded. So it's crucial for me to do grounding work. I do breathing exercises, do yoga. That's kind of the core of my healing. And so I know that
it's perfect, and we're going to have those days that we blow up, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's called perfect pictures. People are like trying to constantly be perfect. That's also an energy that's kind of negative. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We're just these like complex, beautiful creatures, you know what I mean? And so, you know, not going into effort, not going to being perfect, you know, you're going to have a day where you like, that was pretty bad. I kind of was a jerk that day. So it's not about being perfect. I like to always say that because sometimes people, they get into it, they get in their head about it, like having to be this like perfect angel and stuff like that. You can also be a rebel. I mean, that's what I love about Liberated Healer. I'm a little bit punk rock. I'm not the traditional. When I was getting into this practice, I was kind of afraid. I was like, am I going to be seen as this flower girl? You know what I mean? Like always like dancing around and touting, just light and fairy dust and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I'm not a doormat. That's what I'm saying as well. You know what I mean? Like I had to learn how to take that energy and own it. And, we have a lot of traumatized people who have wounds. And when you do that, you're going to call in very similar people who are going to use to abuse you again. Certainly. And when you go, oh, I'm calling that person in, because then instead of going, why does this keep happening to me? Oh, I need to choose better. I need to set up better boundaries. When you run energy, you get strength, you get confidence, you get seniority. And that's what I like to, promote to people. Even for boxing and getting into your seniority, right? You have to get a stance. You have to become a warrior. That's all energy.
Yeah, your confidence and your solar plexus. Yeah, but because you mentioned trauma, perfectionism is a trauma response. Perfectionism isn't perfect. There's no way for us to be perfect because we're all different. We're all on different journeys, but it's imperative to allow yourself to be a human being. A human being learns from our mistakes, and so we don't have a manual, we have different resources, but nobody's doing it the right way. We're all going to make mistakes, and to allow space for that. And a lot of our environments, our systems are based on shame. Shame just perpetuates more trauma. So I think for me, the most important part of my healing has been healing the shame voice I have within me. It's really internal because I'm an introverted person. I'm not having a ton of interactions with other people, but the person I'm with all the time is myself, and I'm speaking to myself. And a lot of times I'll let my environment kind of choose how I should feel about myself just because of my trauma history. So I've got to catch that. I've got to do some grounding, and I've got to talk to that voice and change it to, like you're saying, the higher frequencies of that funnel.
And shame is the number one reason why we do have so much suicide in this planet. I mean, it's 1 in every 11 minutes in the United States that we lose a person. It's 1 million people a year worldwide. We have double the amount of suicides than we do homicides in America. So this is 911, and the fastest age range right now is 10 to 14. They don't have this. They don't understand what's happening. They break up with their girlfriend. They think or boyfriend. They think that the whole world is over. You know what I mean? So shame is that energy that is within us that we have to heal, but we also have to watch how we put out judgment and shame to other people. That is a true energy. And if you think of yourself as this energy vortex, right? And you actually take a little ball of shame and then judgment, and you throw it at someone, and it sticks on them, and it sticks on their energy like little kind of pancakes is the way that I see it when I see people's energy. And when they get really depressed, they have like those little gray pancakes all around with dents all over their aura, and then they're like, why do I feel so bad? No wonder you have no light, you have no rainbows, you have no colors running through there, and you have to pop that off. So that's why it's, of course you're not perfect, but I would still say that a lot of people can reduce their shame in themselves, but also on their output to the world. Mm-hmm. Do you really need to put that comment on social media? Is it really going to really help someone? You have to contribute to that. You know what I mean? Because you actually carry that. That's the one thing I like to people don't realize it. They're like, oh, I can't believe they wrote that. They did that. They performed that. They sang that outfit, whatever it is. When you get up and walk away, you're actually one carrying that comment. That's your energy that you're putting out in the world. So you have a lot more power than you think you do.
Yeah. I mean, our words and our actions are incredibly important. They're incredibly impactful on our environment. We don't know who's listening to, like we might have had just a moment of being triggered and we had some reaction, but that's not just that doesn't disappear. That's in your environment. So we can control how other people experience us and how we experience life by being able to choose our responses, and our response even to ourselves. Like a lot of people want to, it's summertime. I want a summer body, I want to change my diet. I want to change my exercise routine. Well, you also have to bring to that relationship a healing and loving approach, because if you fail, as we all do, we're all making mistakes or trying to perfect ourselves. How are you going to be able to get back up from that mistake? Are you going to beat up on yourself? Are you going to then, like you were saying, project onto others and send that negative energy out? Like we have control over what happens in our lives, in our environment.
And people always tell me, because the book is Surviving Suicidal Ideation that I co-authored with a trauma-informed therapist. Her name's Dr. Amelia Kelley, and it's being published by the Swedenborg Foundation, coming out on June 28th. It's my first published book, and I'm super proud of it. And people always ask me sort of what's the one thing that really changed everything, and I did not know I didn't love myself. And I was a very, very similar person. I came off very similar as I do now. Everybody thought Gina is just so in love with herself. Gina is so happy. Gina's so, because I literally had the very similar exact personality. But what they did not know is inside, I did not love myself. I didn't really even like myself. And that was from childhood abuse. But, and I didn't know I didn't love myself. I just kept putting out love in everywhere I could, and hoping that love would be reciprocated. And every time it wasn't reciprocated, I felt like, how come I'm not worthy of love? How come I don't deserve this? Why am I the last person picked on the baseball field feeling? You know what I mean? Why am I the last person that's not welcome into the circle? Even though I was kind of popular and I would get invited to things, but I always felt used. And then when people got tired of me, they would discard me. And it's true, they actually did. But I did not realize I was calling in the same pain over and over to myself.
Yeah.
And so through my healing, that's when I was like, oh my God, I don't even I don't pamper myself. I put everyone's needs first. I have to get massages. I have to get my workout routine. I have to eat healthy. I have to have boundaries when someone is talking to me in a negative way. I was afraid to even have a boundary because I was afraid to lose that person. So I was the kind of person that's like, oh, you need a job? I want to help you find a job. Oh, you need to move this weekend? I'm going to help you move. I mean, I literally unpacked my friend's whole house because she wasn't feeling good and set up her whole house in an attempt to keep her friendship. She wasn't a good friend. To be honest, she wasn't. She didn't reciprocate. But it was all an effort not to lose her. And after I fell in love with myself, I fell deeply in love with myself, just like I would in a movie. It was very beautiful. My mom's like, you can go marry yourself now. You love yourself so much. I'm like, that's right. I should. But everything changed. Everything changed. My whole life changed when I fell in love with myself. And now the people that come in, it's just different. The projects that come in, my life path opened up. And I have bad days and I fall down and I cry, but I never go back to that space where I start thinking, all these terrible thoughts that were in my head. And I feel like anybody that lived in my head at that time, they probably would have thought about killing themselves. It was nasty. I was not talking to myself nice at all. Yeah. I wouldn't treat a dog like or a cat or anything like that. So why was I treating myself like that? So I think people that are suffering, that's what a lot of them do. They just talk to themselves so awful. They don't realize they need to realize how freaking beautiful they are. That we're in this physical body, like this, it's a miracle. Like it is so beautiful. Like whatever your station in life, wherever you are right now, like you have this clock and this time to go ahead and just go for it. Don't let like, I feel like the governments have put on like credit scores on us, and they put all this stuff on us that make us feel less than. That was
Yeah.
created by very wealthy people so they can make more money. And all it does is make us feel like crap. And it's like, I just denounce it. I don't care about your dumbass credit score. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like letting all that stuff like go. I don't care. I'm going to be a rock and roller, rock star my whole life in my own personal body.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the energy. That's why I'm trying to show people it is an energy. Like, you can go there.
Certainly, yeah. There are so many systems that make us feel less than, make us oppressed. Not everybody's at the same level or on the same playing field. I mean, we're both women. Like, things are different, but it doesn't mean that it's not available to you. You just have to be able to listen to the voices that are going to help you get there. And I will say there is a place for adversity, overcoming adversity gives you great strength. It empowers you that you're overcoming that situation, but you can, but if you're in a place where you don't feel like you're capable of doing that, those thoughts do come in. They imprison you, and they're not even your thoughts. It's the thoughts and the treatment of our abusers. I mean, most people have suffered through childhood abuse. That's the number one reason why people go to therapy in the first place. They've experienced in their childhood or from their own family. And those thoughts just kind of seep in, and they create our whole reality. Well, they told me I wasn't good enough. They told me I shouldn't have these dreams or goals. And that's just the same voices that we recycle throughout our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I just watched a podcast with a journalist named Abigail Schreier. I don't know how to say her last name, but she just did a whole book and study about that this generation is like the smartest kids in school, that go on to be PhDs and get like some of the biggest scholarships. What they're seeing now, what they're reporting now is all these really smart kids are afraid to do anything. Like, they're afraid to start new projects. They're so afraid of failure that the efficacy, it's crazy. It's actually like an epidemic. She wrote the whole book on this. And it's just like, fear is set in, and they're like the smartest kids in school. And they're afraid to take any new adventure. They're afraid to leap.
Yeah.
Take a risk.
I can relate to that. I did not feel empowered when I was in school, and I felt like I needed to be the smartest. So I was always studying and always trying to perform, but that's another trauma response. So I would question if maybe those kids are going through some trauma that is not known about. They're in this freeze response, their fear mind, their fear body. The fight, flight, or freeze just means that you don't feel like you're capable of making it. It's a form of codependency. Yeah. I need to relate to my parents or my environment in order to make a decision, instead of feeling empowered to make those decisions on your own.
Well, what she was saying, I think this is a good thing to say here, is that anxiety is normal. Anxiety also can be related to excitement. And so a lot of times they're being labeled as having PTSD, which actually PTSD is really not, it's being overly diagnosed, because in reality, sometimes they're just bad memories, and sometimes those bad memories are there just so you could learn. They're important things that happen to you so you can learn and grow on, I don't go down that street at that time of night or whatever. Sure. You know what I mean? So the anxiety actually, though, some of it is there for a reason. It's there to teach you. It's this response in your body. And then you have to learn how to self-soothe it. And that's another thing she was talking about, was they come in with the medications. And then what happens is they kill that anxiety, but now your receptors are not there for you to learn and grow from, and you do become sort of a like a comatose, unconscious
Sure.
individual, and you're not strengthening that muscle. It is a muscle,
Yeah.
like it's unbelievable. Like I've written so much in the last 2 years. I would have never thought that I feel like I'm such a better writer now, but I would never have thought I could have become even this good as a writer. And everybody was like, well, of course you write all the time, but it still blows my mind that, like it really did work through practice and actually doing it and really trying to learn like different principles and stuff. I've actually become a really good writer, but it was so much work. And I just felt kind of lucky when I got my publishing deal. Like, oh, wow, I'm kind of lucky. I'm only an okay writer. I just have a good idea. But in reality, like when I read it now in the book, I'm like, yeah, there's heart there, but it took practice. Just like you
Certainly.
working out and whatever, everything takes practice, but also dealing with anxiety takes practice.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, that some of those kids that were too afraid to make decisions, they're not getting enough exposure to adversity. And there's different groups of people that have different life experiences. Some people are disadvantaged, and so they don't really have the choice of not dealing with that adversity. They have to in order to move past it. But some people are not being presented with enough adversity, and so then they're not prepared. They haven't developed those skills. But like the more you do something and with the right intention, with the right practice, you will get better. So anybody that wants to try anything, if you want to try martial arts like me, I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and wrestling. I didn't have any experience in that whatsoever. But as I kept going to classes, I started getting promoted. There's belt colors and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was progressing the more I practiced it with the right intentions. And everybody can do that. If you can't sing now or if you can't dance, you could develop that skill. That's what our natural ability as a human being is.
And you know what? If you didn't have any spirituality, you were an atheist, which is fine. I always bring this out because when people do high level sports like that, what you're actually doing with your energy, remember I was talking about that bubble with the pancakes, you're blowing those out.
Yeah.
So you are actually doing energetic and spiritual work on top of the physical work you're doing. Yeah. And that's why the athletes in general population of athletes are people that have a consistent workout. They are so much happier. I live by the beach and I always say, have you ever met a depressed surfer? Not really. You haven't. I mean, they might be a little bit cynical or judgmental or whatever, but they're not depressed for the most part. That's because when you get into nature at that level, or you get into what you do with Muay Thai and stuff like that, what your body is automatically grounding to the earth. You're automatically getting stronger. You're automatically breaking off judgments, shame, criticisms out of that space. What it is turning that tornado on and flinging all the lower end, because it's high end. If you go running, I restarted running again. I used to be a runner and I'm doing it now. When I run, it's like all of the things are falling off into the ground and burning away. And it's a natural thing that you do at that level is the energy. So even if say you're a person I don't like meditating and I don't want to learn about energy, what you do right there, if you teach people just to do the wrestling and the Muay Thai and all that, they're actually working their energy. They just don't know it. But it's fun. Yeah. That's what I mean is everybody has their own path. And if later on they want to learn about the energy, that's fine. But if you're so depressed and they don't want to learn about energy, you don't have to. But you know what? If Muay Thai works for you, you're going to have the same result of doing Muay Thai or wrestling than if you did and sat and ran your energy with meditation for 30 minutes. It's a different technique. It's a different process. but it's really the same thing. So it's just at least do something if you're suffering or in a stuck position. I also had this client the other day, has 4 kids. She is a stay-at-home mom, and she teaches them, homeschools all her 4 little boys, 3 boys and a girl. She lives in Inglewood. They don't have a lot of money. And I used to mentor her. She was a homeless teen when I met her. Now she has 4 kids. I used to be her mentor. And she said the other day, she teaches the kids, and then she always has like a either an exercise or a field trip that they go on, like to a park or to a lake or wherever. And she posted the other day, I just loved it. She was like, there was never a day where they sat home and watched television and said, oh, that was a memory.
Yeah.
That I want to remember. Never. And it's kind of true. So it's not saying that can't be a little bit of a, relaxing thing, but it's especially for children, you got to get them out there into nature. You got to get them into being active, or you yourself as well, really having a balance with the social media and the content, and, binge watching TV for the whole entire weekend. Like, do you remember even hardly what happened? It's like, it's just not if you have a tendency to be depressed and you're doing that, you're really not being liberated healer at all. You're literally falling into the things that are going to make you feel worse. And then you're going to feel disconnected. You're not going to feel part of a community. It's really, and sometimes the images actually get stuck in your mind, and you hold that energy. Sometimes you watch a lot of slasher movies or horror films. That is energy that you are consuming into your space. Mm-hmm. And especially when people watch that before they go to bed, and then they have nightmares, and they're like, I had this nightmare. It's like, no wonder you just watched the whole movie about like people killing each other. It's
certainly, yeah. And I've got friends that are horror buffs, and I it's not something I practice, but it is. I mean, everything that we consume, not just food, it is affects us on an energetic level. And you were talking about your previous client and her taking out her 4 children into nature. It's just a way to reconnect ourselves with ourselves, because we're a part of nature. There's not just one healing modality, but these have worked for me. Running out in nature, or taking my shoes off and standing in the ground, like that really does reconnect me. Meditation reconnects me with myself. And it's just important to know where your focus is and how that's impacting your life. Because depression can be a prison, like it will lie to us. It's like lying to yourself that the things that you're doing to cope with your circumstance is really helping you. It might feel better for the period, because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about pain relief. We're talking about someone that is suffering and looking for ways to cope. So television is a way to cope, but it depends on what you're feeding, yourself. Like, what types of shows are you watching, and are you only investing your time into television and eating Doritos and stuff? And I'm guilty of that, but I know that I've got to, there's got to be a place for it, but it can't be my whole focus. That the 20% is eating healthy foods 80% of the time, but allowing the guilty pleasures that, we're all kind of conditioned to like, having a place for that, but not having a focus on that.
Yeah. I have a vision that social media is going to actually start to wane off in a few years. It's, because people are going to want to just be outside, and they're going to go, nah, never mind. Thanks a lot. I feel people are getting there. It's good for a few minutes, and then you go and do your thing. And then if you have a practice where, even self-monitoring that, if you're, oh my God, I didn't even realize I've been on here an hour, and say you want to do something in your life, like, learn how to do boxing or Muay Thai. You're taking an hour away from something that you could have learned or educated yourself in, or that would have really helped you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So I actually see social media is going to get less powerful. Not right now, but I just think like, in the universe, I can, I get downloads a lot because I actually am a channel as well. And I channel a lot of my content for my books, but I see that that's going to change in the next 3-4 years,
Well, I think it's social media there's so many opinions about it, but it is a way for us to connect with each other. But the way that it's being used is really causing trauma in our lives and causing more disconnection and more disillusion. So perhaps there's going to be a what's the term I'm looking for? Something that supersedes that, something that is better for us. And perhaps it's just like going outside and like meeting with, like being in touch with your neighbors, like connecting with people in your community. That is not happening anymore. And in fact, so I live in the Boulder area in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I haven't lived specifically in this area for a long time, but I can already see the disconnection, that people are so ready to start fights with each other, and you don't believe what I believe, and you shouldn't be here, and people claiming that they're natives, and the planet is for everybody, like this space is for everybody. But I feel like the pandemic and the pressure of like all of the economic crisis has brought out the worst in people. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. And hopefully
we all have that special seed of light in us. You can call it whatever you want, but every single one of us has it. So when you're looking at someone and you're judging them, or looking at them like you don't belong, or it's like you're denying their light to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're denying their right to be this innocent, beautiful being. And if we just start recognizing that we all have it, and then help the people that are like, say, the people that say have gone down the road of addiction, of like alcoholism or drugs or anything like that, like they have a light in their suffering. And as they continue to go down that road, it literally, that bubble is just getting almost like full of tar. It's getting darker and darker and harder and harder and harder. And that's, they stop love. They don't have any self-love. And there's a light in there. And instead of walking by and judging them, just see their light and be like, that's what I try to do. If I can't help everybody, but I try not to send them judgment. If I see like homeless people, I just try to see that light inside of them. And I imagine it getting brighter and brighter so it can help push away some of that darkness around them. And that's all I can do as a human. I'm just walking by. But it's been a practice, to have that awareness and that consciousness. Like, I don't want to add to their troubles and judge them.
Yeah.
And I can't help the world, but I can at least find that. I'm getting chills as I talk about this. Like, this is really important for some reason. But let's just look at that light and like, let's blow it up for them and send them well wishes, because they've already are suffering. No matter if you judge like, oh, they shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that. You don't know their story.
You don't. Yeah.
We want them all to heal. Every single person that has an ability to heal is another person saved. And people, when I deal with suicidal ideation, and the fact that we lose so many people, is heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. Like the Pentagon just came out with a study, and they're supposed to come out with another one. They finally admitted that they lose more soldiers to suicide than combat. Like,
I'm glad that you brought up veterans, because I've wanted to work with veterans directly for most of my career, and it just has not worked out I've had some veterans on the show, but I really feel like I need to make it more of my focus, because I think there's a lot of importance to what you said. Looking at, a homeless person on the street and not passing judgment, just seeing them as a light being or seeing the divinity in them. I think that's what everybody can do, is look at another human being without judgment and allow for them to be empowered. Even if all you're doing is smiling or thinking good thoughts, that is so beneficial, because all of these systems are judging and oppressing. And somebody as important as a veteran should not have to worry about mental health care or housing. And I mean, people are kind of, changing things around that, but it's not, it's a problem that's very fixable. Homelessness is very fixable. But if we're going to keep passing judgment, we're not going to be able to get there. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get, there's gonna be a whole section about them in my documentary. So I have a 10-minute sizzle that is all these Ukrainians that have been displaced that are filmmakers came together and helped me film the first 10 minutes. Was going to come down to the first 10 minutes of the documentary. My director is 33 years old, from the Ukraine. His father committed suicide when he was 11. It's the same title, Surviving Suicidal Ideation. The entire crew was from Ukraine. About 13 people donated their time to try to do this sizzle for us. And the studio was even donated. I think that whole day of shooting was like a $40,000 day, completely donated. Wow. Just people giving out their heart, but we want to talk about, definitely the military is going to have a big category that we're going to talk about. But I want to, even though suicide is sort of obviously a serious topic, I want to take the darkness out, and I want to also give it levity. And how we do that is by talking about it, about people like me who used to have suicidal thoughts that no longer have it, giving people hope that they don't have to live the rest of their life that way, because I didn't know that. I thought that was part of me. Like I lost my leg. Like, or whatever. It's like, I'm not going to grow another leg. You think about this. You think like, this is a part of me. It's going to always be a part of me. No, it doesn't have to be. You can change it now and today, to make the effort towards getting rid of it and recognizing it, saying, oh, I have suicidal thoughts. I don't want to live like that anymore. How am I going to get this? And that's part of like our books and the support. Is like, we're going to help you find a way to get that gone. But the really cool part is like, when it's gone, it's gone. And I'm actually writing so much and creating programs so much because I'm at such a healed state that I can barely even go into those old feelings anymore, even to write about it. Like I used to be able, when I wrote the first book, I'm writing the second one right now, I could go to that moment if they were like, how did it feel? And I could tell you exactly how I felt when I was suicidal. I'm getting so healed that that's going away. I can't even barely remember. That's why I'm working so fast, because I want to be authentic. But if I've healed so much, I don't remember how it feels anymore. Like that's great for me, but I have to make sure I'm trying to be, you know what I mean? I want to be authentic to people.
But of course your experience will always be there, even if you have a different perspective, even if you have a healed perspective, it'll still be useful. But it's nice to be able, you mentioned the word transmutation. And I think that's, in essence, overcoming adversity, taking something that's dark and making it light, because I believe that there's always light in it. It sucks to think about everybody suffering through trauma or abuse or what have you. But I don't know the purpose of that. I think there's a higher meaning to that and it's different for everybody. But in looking back through all of my experiences, there was so much light in the dark. That's what I needed to find, is that this is being done for me and not to me, so that I can learn to love myself, or learn how to treat people better, or learn how X, Y, and Z. There are so many incredibly divine lessons in all of that I took that and made it light. That's what I can do with martial arts. That's what I can do with therapy and meditation. I can transmute it to be something that works for me.
And I actually just downloaded this from Spirit a couple days ago, because I'm writing the whole section about light and dark on My second book's called Planet Walking, a handbook for the living. What I was laughing because you're like, we don't get a handbook. And I'm like, I'm kind of working on it. But this is what they said. And I love this because it helps people, because people like to separate light and dark so much. And then they think, well, I'm in the dark. And then they get consumed by the fear that maybe they've got some darkness inside of them or around them or whatever. But light and dark is a constant dance, right? We're never going to be apart from it. You know what I mean? It actually dances, and sometimes light's on top and sometimes dark's on top. So if you try to say, I want to get all the dark out, like that's a futile experiment. You know what I mean? And so I worked with a lot of people with the energy work. They're like, I want to get every little bit of dark out. You know, you're like, that's not possible, you know?
Not possible.
So just remember that it's a dance, you know what I mean? And so it takes that fear out, because it's the fear that stops us from progressing. So recognize that light and dark is constantly interweaving and dancing. You know, it lightens it a little bit, you know? I don't want darkness to feel like it's such this, what, you know, which it can be.
Yeah.
But if you can remember, it's a dance. You know what I mean? We're dancing with the light and the dark, and just go, you know, you can make it, you know, not so fearful, because people will go there and be like,
I think, right. I think fear, not all fear, but a lot of our fear comes from ignorance and just not knowing that we're capable of overcoming certain circumstances. There is always light and dark, and there's always dark and light. It needs each other. So at the darkest point of life, if you're experiencing suicidal ideation, know that you still have your light, your spark of divinity. You still have the capability of overcoming things that's even possible. That's what it means to be a human being.
And you know what? I've worked with a lot of dark entities, by the way, because I had to study when I did energy work at like a psychic institute. I had to do like 2 or 3 free readings a week for like 5 years. So I've actually done hundreds and hundreds of healings on people, and I've seen lots of different entities. I've had to perform an exorcism. I've had to be involved in stuff like that. But everything helped when you added the ingredient of love. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's all that, and the love energy. I mean, like the energy of love.
Yeah.
You know, just surrounding someone in love, surrounding yourself in love. If you are in a tar pit and you have suicidal thoughts, just imagine this big giant bubble of love around you. That love, that is the purest form of being human, why you're here. There's a purpose you are here. You don't want to check out early. You want to get through that purpose, and it's going to make you stronger. And you're going to, another mountain is coming, but the next mountain is going to be easier, and the next mountain is going to be easier. And this time it's going to be less boulders on the back and less brush, and the paths are going to open up. The people are going to come in that are meant for you. The shows, the people that you get to meet and spend time with, they're going to come in. They're going to start to line up. You're going to start to date better people or call in better people that are more aligned with you, because like energy attracts like energy. And that's what I needed to learn. So if I'm walking around with my wounds, I got a broken heart, I'm abused, hey, abused guy, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Date me? I'll fix you, and I'm going to make sure you never leave me. You know, you call that person to you. And then you think, what did I do wrong? That's the process that we have to, like, when you become healed, all of a sudden that person slides right in, and you're like, wow, I'm attracting, this is a personal experience, but like the men that are asking me out and I'm attracting right now versus, and I was married 2 times. I've had a lot of boyfriends. I like it. I love men, you know what I mean? Or whatever. I love love. Right. And, but the people I'm attracting now are a whole different caliber. And I'm not talking just financially, but actually it is financially, but they are communicative. They are gentle. They listen, give back. There's equal balance and take. I do something for them, they do something for me. If I'm having
Yeah.
a moment, they can go, I can see something's up with you. You want to talk
Mhm.
about it? I never had that before. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
those people are there, but you
Mhm.
are, you know what I mean? And it's not your fault, but that awareness when you're like, I do that. I have that.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah,
that. I have in my mind where I have this family life that's like this. You can get
mhm.
there, but it feels
Yeah,
like it's so far away when you're stuck in the dumps, you know? It feels like it's a whole other world away. But in reality, you know, it will fall in if you start to call that in for yourself. And I love telling
yeah.
people that because it gives them
It's
hope.
yeah. It's healing the internal, our trauma lives in our subconscious. And so we have to heal our whole selves. Otherwise we get into trauma bonded relationships where we're playing the role of the abused person or the abuser in whatever regard the abuse took place. And it's not something that we're aware of. We're not aware of all of our actions and our intentions, but
Yeah.
finding some grounding and listening to yourself. And I haven't asked you your self-care regimen, but I'm about
Okay.
to. Um, but I think that really does help raise our vibration, so the people that we attract into our lives are at that frequency, rather than the hurt self, the unhealed self.
Yeah. And it'll come in
So
fast. And that's why I wanted the people to know it. They're like, really, this could be like 2 years away.
it
It
could
could be
happen
fast.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
like it
no.
can happen when you make the decision to heal.
Yep.
Things
Yep.
do change for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gina, how do you what's your self-care regimen look like? What kinds of things do you do to take care of yourself?
Well, because I do have trauma and I know that I do, I have my own protocol. First thing I do is I wake up. I immediately do a grounding core and I ground myself and I stretch my arms out and I kind of look and I get present in my body and I kind of say today's date and I go through my calendar and then I look at the energy. I kind of give it all good energy and kind of like my own affirmations. And I look at my dogs and I hug them. Instead of just flying out of bed and grabbing coffee, I just take that little moment to be
Yeah.
present for the day and set myself up. I don't know, for me, it brings me back into my body and it helps reduce anxiety and stuff. Depending on that, I might do a longer meditation. So I always start with that. But I do a lot of meditation. The next thing I do is I have like an iHome pod and I ask to play meditation music through my house through the day. And I put it on really low hum. And that's also because I have PTSD. So you don't realize like that little low hum of peaceful like cello music or, chimes. I'll be like in a moment and then all of a sudden I'll hear ding, ding, ding. And it really does help I'm talking about, especially people with PTSD. It's like, oh, okay, calm down. I might have candles or Palo Santo or things just because I'm really into ritual too. And so just kind of saying, I'm going to light a candle for myself today. Look at this beautiful flame. Flames have so much energy, earth, connecting to each earth, wind,
Oh,
water,
yeah.
flames, just connecting to it. And I look at the flame. I say, thank you. Bring in some nice people to me today. Maybe bring in a client or so, help me with my abundance. I always do some sort of exercise, whether it's running or yoga. I always get out and move. I move every single day as much as I can, at least like an hour and a half a day, somewhere, somehow. Quality food is so freaking important. I've
Mhm.
also healed myself from chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a virus that is really hard to heal. Healed it. And because I healed it, I turned my immune system into a super immune system. I never get sick anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I mean, years. It's probably been like 6, 7 years since I've had any illness at all. Got COVID for like 2 days. I popped it out because I retrained my body through my spiritual healing and also, and
Mhm.
the way that our body keeps the score, right? So this
Yeah.
part of having to work out the pain and the traumas, but I make and I hate cooking, but I'm learning how to love cooking because I'm learning how it feeds me, and I go get quality ingredients, and I actually thank the farmers and the people because I live by a farming community now, and I watch them picking the berries every day and picking the lettuce. And I think it's a part of our ritual and practice that we're really not seeing, like the energy of how everything was created, and respecting that. And then feeling it ingest your body with the beautiful blueberries or whatever you're eating, and feeling that energy and the colors and the vibrations. So it's sort of like, if you're going to eat like a lot of greasy food and a lot of meat products, and you don't have any ritual or awareness of where they came from, or, you know what I mean? You're literally, there's so many illnesses attached to that type of behavior. Your organs are working 24/7, constantly. And we're ingesting things that really, are terrible, have pesticides or whatever. So it's really, so that's like the mind, body, spirit thing that you want your mind, body, spirit, and soul to collapse into one. When you do that, you can manifest any life you want.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You've brought up the body keeps the score a few times, and I haven't said anything about it. But Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is the reason why I pursued martial arts to begin with, because science says martial arts helps to heal trauma. But our trauma lives within our body. So having some sort of activity every day that we're passionate about, that we enjoy doing, that we can find some fun in, so that we can create that routine. Eating nutritious food, like feeding your body, getting proper rest. I mean, all of those things are essential. And yes, we call it self-care. And I think it's like a trendy kind of term now, but it's not like just always taking bubble baths. I mean, I do that as part of my self-care, but it's also taking care of the whole self.
But I also am building a community, and I have really strict kind of boundaries, but they're also sort of, and I've made bonds with people where they understand my background and that I have triggers, and then I might need them sometime just to listen. So I have really good conversation. So I have a list of people that when I get triggered, that they know when I call them that I need them, and they'll say, "Are you okay?" And I'll sometimes just that 5-minute phone call. So it's I used to just go hide in my bedroom. And I was afraid to be a burden on anyone else. And a lot of times when people leave this world, there's stats that say a lot of people feel like they're burdening. Can't say that word right now.
Burdening, yes.
But so I had to get rid of that in my mind, and I had to create a list of people, and I had to have a conversation with them and say, "This is me. I'm a little bit suffering. If you love me, you won't judge me about this. You'll be there." And so those are the people that love to be there, but now they understand that when I'm calling and reaching out, sometimes it's like really a need that I just need a moment of their time, and that's my self-care. We got to let people help each other too.
Yeah.
So people I can do it all, it's like, you need to go out and say, "Hey, I need a little bit of help, please. Here's what I'm going through." And it's vulnerable and it's scary, especially when you're having a bad moment. But let those people in, let them help you. And it makes them feel good too. But that's a big, huge self-care that I have.
It's, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of, I can do everything on my own, but it's really because of my trauma. My trauma has told me there's nobody that you can depend on. There's nobody you can trust. You have to do it on your own. And that has been reinforced throughout my life. But I know the truth is that I have to choose. I have to be more selective, and I can't choose out of my trauma. I've got to choose people that are able to hear my truth. I have to choose people that are emotionally healed enough and emotionally intelligent enough to be there for me and hold space. So that's essential to all of our healing. So
community. I'm big on community. I want, that's what a lot of it, what we're missing. And we want to save people's lives. That's what you and I are here for. I want to see the numbers go down. It's my mission. It's been going up for 3 years in a row. in America, especially, even more so probably. And I just want to, we can do better. We can come together. We can see those numbers go down, because those are the actual stats of suicides. When we have and when we have first attempts, which we sort of know the stats, we have people that are planning, and we have people who have ideation. Like, we literally could be dealing with 85% of our population has suicidal thoughts once in a while. I mean, it's a big number. It's huge. Yeah. It should be the number one thing on all politicians' lists, is coming up with programs and things like this. It should be the number one, and it's not. Well, there's a lot of other things
that are taking precedent. But I really do think that the more that humanity has an awareness of our mental health, that we're not just talking about mental illness, we're talking about what we need as human beings to feed our mental and emotional bodies. When we have more awareness about that, then we can develop those types of programs. When we have more awareness of how our environments, how our systems impact us. Like, we're talking about several different groups of people: women, people of color, people that are disenfranchised in other ways. Like, we've got to look at all of the factors and see how we live our lives and how that is impacting our mental health. And then we can create better communities and better relationships and better practices that, reflect what's good for our mental health.
Yeah. I just want to send everybody a big hug today. And a little bit of a breath.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this, co-creation and opportunity to connect with you and all your listeners. And
certainly
just want to do a big uplift of energy to anybody that needs to release something that's not serving them anymore, and to give them back a little bit of their energy right now, so they can move forward today and into the future. And just know that, we're all doing the best that we can. We really are. People really are doing the best they can at what they're given. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to remember that, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have a final question.
Okay.
But I want to give space if you want to plug anything or ask me anything before we do that.
Go ahead.
Do you so you have your book coming out on June 28th. Is there anything else you want to share? Is there any websites or anything you want to promote before I ask my final question? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I'm the liberatedhealer.com. I do one-on-one healings. You can book them on my calendar there. They're 90 minutes. I teach you the tools that you use every single day when you have anything you need to deal with. And so those really help. There's also a course on there. I'm building a 6-part docuseries. I'm actually building a web app as well. And I'm building Suicidal Ideation Anonymous, which is going to be a lot like AA, online, for support groups for people to be able to share their stories and get help. So the mission is a wellness ecosystem and foundation, and everything else we can think of. We're going to try to get the world leaders and as much money to create these programs we can, to build a community and help people as much as we can. So the liberatedhealer.com, also on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else.
Okay, awesome. Well, I've got to go follow you. But so Gina, my final question, because the name of my show is Freedom to Fight, my final question is, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom and liberation kind of go hand in hand. So I think that you and I are a good combination. Freedom. Dang, what a great word, right? I mean, you know when your freedom is not there. You know when you are in a self-imposed prison or any type of prison or whatever thing like that. So don't put yourself into a self-imposed prison. Recognize that you have this body for a reason. It was a magical, beautiful gift to be here, that you can't make any choices and decisions and changes if you're not here. So do not make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Freedom.
Certainly.
We are born free. We're going to die free. Let's live free.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Gina, for coming on my show. I'm really excited to release this because we've never talked about these subjects before. So
it's my
amazing.
pleasure.